The Commodores defense gets a difference maker, and there's some new staff shakeup on West End. Let's go.
You are Locked On Vandy, your daily podcast on the Vanderbilt Commodores, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome into the Locked On Vandy podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Corey Burton. Thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube as part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Well, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Well, we're about to get started here. Dontae Carter is going to be an absolute difference maker. He's going to be a stud in that secondary for Clark Lea in this defense. And this is probably one of the biggest recruits they've gotten in a long time. And I'm excited to see kind of what he brings to the table in that defensive backfield. I think this is a very talented safety position, and I'm excited, man. I think you're going to see Clark Lea get creative here with how he uses the three guys that he's got. I mean, to add freshman Dontae Carter to a group that includes CJ Taylor, Randon Fontenette are going to be also two of your difference makers. CJ Taylor, the veteran guy who made plays all last season, despite the struggling season. But man, if you look at Dontae Carter, you go look at his highlights, they absolutely jump out at you, and I'm excited. So what you guys need to do, well, there's this poll, and unfortunately, last night was the last time you could have voted on it, and it's a poll that was put out by High School Fan Nation. And it was a poll where you could vote on the top defensive back in the state of Texas. Well, Dontae Carter, the last I checked, was in second place. He had 38.7% of the votes, and Daniel Mendetta from Santa Gertrudis Academy has 39.6% of the votes. So hopefully this will go. But I think he was. I mean, you look at his film, and I think the things that jump out at you are outstanding. I mean, let's just pull up his resume, and I'll talk about his film here a little bit and kind of go through why I think he will be a difference maker, because that's a bold thing to say about a freshman in the SEC, especially coming into a situation like Vanderbilt where there's so much shakeup just all over the staff and scheme-wise and everything like that. It's very easy to say, okay, this guy's a freshman. He's probably going to come in and come in slowly. But again, here is him at Steele High School this past season. This is his resume. This is what he brings to the table. He had 7 interceptions a year ago, 73 tackles, and 3 forced fumbles were the 3 main stats that jumped out at me for Dontae Carter. He's somebody that's very versatile positionally. He can be your slot corner guy, your slot coverage guy. He can play the run. He can play deep safety. I mean, there's so many different possibilities with Dontae Carter, and these stats speak for themselves. I'm thoroughly impressed with what he brings to the table there. So, just watching his film, what really jumps out at me is just just the fact that he's coming in as a defender, and he really didn't play on defense until this past season. This was his first year. He was normally a wide receiver, and like I said, I can't stay. Well, actually, his junior season was his first season playing defense. But I mean, the way he breaks on the ball, the way he plays the ball in the air is incredible. I mean, the guy's got some really, really good instincts as a deep safety. He reacts very, very well. He adjusts to the ball very well. He seems to be able to read the quarterback and understand coverages and things like that. There's clips of him as a press corner, so he's got some versatility. Like he can cover. There's a play in here where he's in press and he gets off his guy and comes in and makes the interception at the front pylon. He's a good hash safety, so he's a good like cover two even coverage safety. So I mean the guy just has a knack for finding the football, and he has a knack for being able to just make plays when they present themselves. And to me, what that's gonna lead to is he's gonna find himself in the lineup, not only at free safety, but there's gonna be certain situations where they put him and CJ Taylor as the two high safeties. They're going to put Taylor to the boundary, Dontae Carter to the field, and they'll have Brandon Fontenette down kind of in the boxes at like linebacker safety type body and do that. There may be some situations where they put him as a slot coverage guy. There might be some situations where if they go three cornerbacks, like he might be kind of like your nickel, your star position type guy, where he can kind of do a little bit of both. To me, Dontae Carter fits in most as a free safety because I think the way he plays the deep hash, he's optimal in cover 4, cover 2, because I think he's got the range to cover half the field. But again, I think he can play a single high look. I believe that he can play on a slot receiver and give him all the work that he could want, and just his closing speed when the ball gets to a receiver and making plays. It's just outstanding. And I can't overstate that enough to where he's just going to be a special guy for this defense. And I think when you have a guy like him of his skill set, where he's more kind of like a ball hawk, pass defense guy, play the ball in the air, react, cover ground, get some pass breakups, things like that. I think when you have a guy like that and you pair him with a guy like Brandon Fontenette, who is really good against the run and really good at filling the alley and playing up close to the box, and you got a guy like CJ Taylor who can kind of do just about everything. He can play the run down low. He can play a deep safety. He can play center field. Not sure if CJ Taylor can play a slot receiver as good as Dontae Carter. That might be Dontae Carter's niche, where they get into nickel situations. He comes in and covers a slot guy, or he comes in and covers like your athletic tight end, what Georgia had with Brock Bowers. I don't know if anybody can cover Brock Bowers, but it's going to be kind of that situation where he's just kind of like a jack of all trades, and that's extremely valuable. He'll be a gunner on special teams. He'll see the field. He'll see the field early, and I think his talent speaks for itself. I mean, just do yourself a favor with Dontae Carter. Go watch his highlights. Okay, just do it. Just go watch his highlights from Steele in Sabalo, Texas. And you can thank me later. I mean, it's ridiculous, man. Like I think oh my gosh, it's I enjoy it. It's something that you should embark on. So again, he's a menace back there. I mean, he plays that the team he plays for, Sabalo Steele, they play kind of like a quarters match coverage type situation. I mean, the guy's he's just there, man. He's just, if the ball's in the air, he's around it, and he's going to make the plays. He's going to rob over top. Just the closing speed of what he does. Like I said, do yourself a favor. He can contribute in the return game. I mean, this guy can do a lot of different things. I mean, he played in the state championship game. Well, I don't know if this is a state championship game because I don't think they play it in the Alamo Dome. But guy's a holder. I mean, this guy's a water boy. He's probably the videographer. He's probably team photographer, team medical professional. I mean, the guy just does everything. And I'm I'm being a little facetious, but I mean, the guy is just super talented. I mean, he's at the free safety position, just rangy. If I had to describe him in one word, rangy. I mean, the guy just plays all over the field. He's somebody that opposing offenses are going to have to come to the line and ID, and he's somebody that, and because of that, Clark Lea won't have any choice but to play him. And so for that, you gotta love that. So big time commitment there, 4-star kid. I think he's the top defensive back in all of Texas. I don't know what their metrics are, but I mean, you just watch him. He passes the eye test, passes the film test. I mean, he had 7 interceptions. He had 73 tackles, which means he's just kind of all over the place. He doesn't shy away from contact. He gets guys on the ground. He just has a knack for creating turnovers, takeaways, and he can be a force in the special teams game, whether he's on a kick coverage unit or if he's contributing in the return game, which we don't know where that's going to go. And Coach LePack, that's his job now, is to figure out kind of where some of these guys fit. And I think he's somebody that can fit in the return game as well. So Dontae Carter, man, going to be a huge difference maker for this defense. And his versatility is the absolute key. So when we come back, the Vandy State AggieDores pick up another coach. We'll talk about him and what that means next. All right, this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL playoffs are in full swing. We're down to the Final Four now, and there's still time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. The app is so easy to use. There's so many different ways to bet, like live same-game parlays. You can find bets in the new Explore tab. You can make a parlay in the Parlay Hub, which is the best way to find your popular parlays. You can go the basic common spread or over-under or moneyline bets too. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to make your first bet a layup. FanDuel is the official partner of the NFL. All right, segment 2. Welcome back. As I mentioned, the Vandy State AggieDores have hired a new running backs coach. I said yesterday, and this was pretty quick. This was a pretty quick hire, and judging from where this guy comes from, I can see why it was a quick hire. And my new nickname for Vanderbilt is the Vandy State AggieDores because, their most recent hire. Ghaali Muhammed-Lankford. He's the new running backs coach for your, in all seriousness, your Vanderbilt Commodores. All right. So here's his resume, and he's a young guy. He was, I'll work backwards. He was just named OC at New Mexico State in place of Tim Beck. Decided opportunity came to work with Tim Beck again in the SEC. He decided that, hey, that's a really good career move for me to have SEC on my roster. And I imagine he'll have some say so in the game planning stuff. He was the running backs coach last season. Before that, he was at Illinois State, where he was co-offensive coordinator and wide receivers. SEMO, where he got his recruiting coordinator. He spent 2 seasons there. Southeast Missouri State, if you guys are wondering, running backs and recruiting coordinator. Then he was a grad assistant at Missouri under, I think Gary Finkel was still there. And then Wyoming is a grad assistant as well under Craig Bowl. So really good resume. Pretty extensive. I think you have a lot of different experiences here. What I like about him is that, he spent time in the FCS level. I think FCS coaches get a bad rap because it's like, oh, lower level guy, he can't coach, right? But like places like Southeast Missouri State, if you're a recruiting coordinator at a place like SEMO, you have to get creative and you have to be good. I mean, SEMO's a good program, don't get me wrong, but it's not a program that recruits itself or sells itself by any stretch of the imagination, right? And Vanderbilt is the same way on a bigger scale. Vanderbilt doesn't sell itself. Let's be honest about Vanderbilt. It doesn't do itself any favors as far as being able to be a recruiting machine. I think they're starting to kind of figure some things out. I think they're finally getting with the times on NIL. But I think being somebody that has to recruit at a place like Southeast Missouri State, SEMO, if you hear me say SEMO, that means you understand how to find diamonds in the rough. You understand how to sell a program that may not have a lot to sell, but you're getting people to, I don't even know where it is. It's somewhere like obviously Southeast Missouri, but I can't imagine it being in some booming metropolis. So to get people there, right? He cut his teeth as an offensive coordinator. He had some offensive coordinator duties. I don't know if that means he was a play caller, but at Illinois State, he was really, really formidable there. I like during his time at Illinois State, he the offense, they went 10-5. They fell to eventually. They made the FCS quarterfinals. He had some guys. He had the Ohio Valley Offensive Player of the Year who rushed for almost 1,300 yards and 14 touchdowns. He went over the century mark in 6 games. That's when he was at. That's when he was at Illinois State. No, this is when he was at Southeast Missouri State. The guy was Marquise Terry. He had FCS All-American honors. Again, he led a playoff team, so he was in a good program there. His running backs in New Mexico State were they were in Conference USA's top 12 rushing yards per game last season. Star Thomas and Monte Watkins, they were productive. He helped an effort that they made consecutive bowl games. They were third in Conference USA in rushing yards per game. They were at 198.6 rushing yards per game. That was a 30-yard improvement on the average from year 1 to year 2. So, I mean, this guy's done a whole lot, man. At Missouri, he worked with wide receivers. He graduated from Wyoming. He played both sides of the ball. He was a leading rusher, and he was a leading tackler as well when he flipped over to the defensive side of the ball at Wyoming. So the guy's kind of been a little bit of everywhere. He's accomplished some things. He's been around some good people, some good systems, and I think the word that describes him is well-rounded when you look at his experience. I mean, he's gotten a touch of a little bit of everything as far as being able to get in some leadership roles. And I think he kind of earned his stripes at New Mexico State. Again, very pivotal in what he does, bringing his experience over from Illinois State. He was just about to embark on his first offensive coordinator opportunity, and then he got the call. So here's what Clark Lea had to say about him. Clark Lea said, quote, "I'm excited to announce our addition of Ghaali to our coaching staff. He spent time in the SEC, has served as a coordinator, and has experience working in Coach Beck's system. All these aspects of his background will help move the program forward. Please join me in welcoming Ghaali and his family to Nashville." And to say, this is probably the expression on Clark Lea's face, the one that you see on the screen. It's this kind of like smile where he's just like, man, I'm just happy. It's that picture from the Hawaii game where he's soaked in his rain suit and he's just got this big grin on his face. I think this was post game where he had just won, or they just announced that they're actually going to get to play the game. So needless to say, he's very, very excited to welcome Coach Muhammed-Lankford in, because it can't be understated that experience matters. Experience in a system matters. And they found a guy, and all jokes aside, you can talk about the Vandy State AggieDores stuff all you want. But the fact remains that they've got a pretty lockstep system coming in between Jerry Gill, Tim Beck, and now Ghaali Muhammed-Lankford, you have three guys that can kind of really bolster this offense and really kind of make it go. So this is somebody that, with his experiences recruiting, he can sell Vanderbilt in a way that probably nobody can. I don't want to say nobody, but like he can sell it in a way that you have to sell a place like Vanderbilt. You have to be, again, it's unique. It's something that's not like, it's not Georgia, it's not Alabama, it's not Texas, it's not USC, it's not Michigan. Like, you don't just roll out the V and say, here, we're Vanderbilt. Welcome to West End. We need to say no more. Like, as much as they can do that on the academic side, they certainly can't do that on the athletic side. And this will be a step in the right direction as far as having a unique angle in recruiting, where he's young enough to be able to relate to these recruits. He's been in situations to where he knows the different things to feature about the program that may be kind of outside the box. And that's how Vandy has to be. Vandy has to always think outside the box. So very excited to bring in Ghaali Muhammed-Lankford. Again, a guy that has a variety of experiences, a guy that's just, he knows the system through and through. And he's going to help these running backs really kind of get in lockstep with Tim Beck. And this is a good move for him. And I think ultimately this is a great move for Clark Lea. And Clark Lea, again, is demonstrating that he might be starting to kind of understand. As Kurt Page said, seek to understand. Now, as I said, seek and destroy, because that's what he has to do in year 4, is go and seek and destroy, because he was destroyed a year ago going 2-10. So now he has to figure out, clean his lick his wounds a little bit and get back up and head right back at it. And he's doing all the right things. He's making all the moves in the portal, very active in the portal, very active coaching staff wise. He found a group. I love that he found a group of coaches that are like, these guys are successful. He watched a ton of tape on that Auburn, New Mexico State game, obviously. And he said, I've got to have that, because there is something there. There's an it factor there. Right? Those running backs are running extremely hard. That run game is special. Tim Beck is good. He needs to be elevated. And Jerry Kill, his health is holding him back, but he's a special guy as far as what he knows about program building, because he can actually do it when he's healthy. And unfortunately, he's not, but he'll be a very valuable piece to this Vanderbilt staff as well. So Melvin Rice coming over from the defensive side, and it just keeps getting better and better. Jeff LePack, I think, coming in from the analyst role, getting the bump up, getting elevated. I think that's a beneficial move for him. And I think that'll work out well too. So lots of good things happening. But we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to finish out the show. Some more random nuggets. We got some recruiting stuff. Just going to go random here. It's going to be fun. Stay tuned. Local ads. All right, welcome back. Third and final segment. Thank you for making Locked On Vandy podcast your number one listen each and every day. Make sure you follow us on social media at Locked On Vandy on Instagram and X, at Coach Burton on X, at Coach Corey Burton on Instagram, if you want to follow me there. I'm going to work on building my Instagram content. Let's get up to 250 subscribers, and we'll start building some good Instagram and TikTok content. But until then, let's stick with X for now. Everydayers, thank you for making this thing go. Without you guys, I would not have gotten launched off the ground. We're off to a phenomenal start in a rough time of year where there's not much to talk about. Just imagine what's going to happen when the Vandy boys start playing baseball, and imagine what's going to happen when football season, well, it's always football season, but imagine when like football season is actually in season. Like, imagine what we're going to be able to do. Okay. Need to get to 1,000. That's my goal. But I can't get to 1,000 until I get to 161. Right. And I got to get there one subscriber at a time. So tell your friends, tell your family, pass the word to anybody who will listen, even opposing fan bases. I'll welcome you guys too. Right. Because we all got to have our viewpoints. We've all got to know what's going on around the conference. Like, I'm interested in what's going on at Ole Miss. Steve is a really good friend of mine. That helps. But, like, I would be interested. Like, Zach Blackerby, Locked On Auburn, the Locked On Texas people. I'm new to the network, so I'm still trying to learn people's names here. Locked On Georgia. That's a good one too. Locked On SEC. Get your SEC news all in one fell swoop. So, again, make all of those your second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth listens. Make us your first, obviously. So, random nuggets. All right. So, basketball's in a bye. So that's basketball is enjoying their bye week. They're off week. They're getting healthy. They're trying to regroup and figure out what the heck is going on here. And I wish I knew that as well. Because the Vanderbilt Hustler wrote an article. It's not such a great article if you're Jerry Stackhouse or if you're involved in the basketball program, because it's very, like, I think people are fed up, right? And the reason I keep talking about basketball, I wouldn't if it was just like kind of irrelevant and people were just kind of like passive aggressive, but like, or just passive in general. But like looking at, hearing from Vanderbilt fans on X or on sites like VanderbiltSports.com, just hearing the chatter going on about the basketball program. I mean, people want a successful program. They're not saying you have to be Duke where you win the national championship like every 3 years. Like, they're not, like, I don't even think they want that necessarily. Like, I don't think they have to have, well, obviously they want to win the national championship every year. Who doesn't? But I don't think they expect that, right? They expect to be in the tournament probably once every 3 years minimum, and to be in the conversation every year, and have some sort of postseason play, whether it's NIT or the dance. And it's not a whole lot to ask for. And I think you live in the Southeast. You recruit in one of the best conferences in the country. You have a ton of basketball talent surrounding you, and you've seen there's precedent for teams that do this thing where they're terrible, and then they hire a new coach, and then they're like, okay, the first year, and then they make a jump, right? Most recent example is the Georgia Bulldogs. They were abysmal under Tom Crean. They hire Mike White. They have no inside presence. Their shot selection's terrible. They look like five guys that just met for the first time. Does any of this sound familiar? It should. That's how Vanderbilt is now. That's how Georgia was last year. Well, Georgia hits the recruiting trail. Mike White hits the recruiting trail, gets him some dudes, and now they're a viable team. Now, I'm not sure they're going to win the SEC but they have a legit shot at making the tournament as, not necessarily as like a 2 seed, but they have a chance of making the tournament, which was unimaginable just 2 seasons ago. Just 1 season ago. Like, I couldn't think of like getting out of the first round of the SEC tournament a year ago. It's a possibility now, right? Auburn basketball was an afterthought until they hired Bruce Pearl. Now look at them. They're one of the best teams in the country. Tennessee with Rick Barnes, like, they're viable after struggling a little bit for some years. Florida, when they hired Billy Donovan, they came out of the SEC used to be, I don't want to say garbage because it's never been garbage, but like the SEC was like third on the totem pole in college. Well, actually, no, fourth on the totem pole at best in college basketball many, many years ago. When you had the Big East that was still kind of ruling the world. The Big East, ACC, Big Ten were all three really good basketball conferences. You had the Pac-12, who wasn't bad. And then you had the Big 12, who was okay. And you had the SEC, who was just okay. You had Kentucky, and like maybe one team would make the tournament and make things difficult on a team. But like for the most part, you're getting 2 or 3 teams in from the SEC. Now you're getting 6. Now you're getting 6 or 7 in the dance from the SEC because the SEC has improved their recruiting footprint. They decided that, hey, football is not the only sport we play in this league, and we're going to be good. They're good in baseball now too. So like the Vandy boys have set the precedent there. So there's no reason that, and my point with all that is there's no reason why Vanderbilt can't do exactly what these other teams have done. Find a guy that can recruit and develop and go. It just takes 2 guys, right? You got a shooter now, Jason Rivera-Torres. You got Tyron Lawrence. Ezra Magnon's going to be gone probably. I think he's going to exhaust all his eligibility, but you just got to find some guys. You just got to find a couple guys. You got to find an inside presence. That's what you need the most. So not such a great article there if you're Jerry Stackhouse, but again, it is what it is at this point. The junior day is coming. Junior day is coming up very, very quickly. We'll talk more about that. We'll get some more recruiting nuggets here as we go. Just the only thing that's happening in recruiting now is they're just making their rounds. They're making some offers. Like Malachi Wright from Orlando just picked up an offer. He's a safety from the class of 2025. So you can see kind of the importance on the safety position that Clark Lea places, because they have offered also Caden Daniels from Crisp County, Georgia. If you know where Crisp County is, you've probably been there on purpose because it's in Cordele, Georgia. Cordele. Caden Knighton, unfortunately decommitted. Maybe Ghaali Muhammed-Lankford can get him back on the ship. So some things happening. We're active in recruiting, so that's a good thing. And these guys are hungry. Maybe that's positive. So anyway, I've probably ran over in every show that I've done, but it is what it is. But this is the Locked On Vandy podcast. We hope you enjoyed. Make sure you follow, subscribe, rate us, give us some feedback, all the good stuff. Thank you to the everydayers. And until next time, we'll see you back here on tomorrow, which is a Thursday. And we'll get you ready for the Vols Vandy matchup on Saturday on the hardwood, and we'll get you ready for junior days and much, much more. Until then, we'll see you later, and anchor down.